Good evening, everyone. Today we select the 2 tributes from every district to partake in the annual Hunger Games, which means that you must marathon every Happy Madison production to date. I, Rhys of the Marathon Me District, volunteer myself and my co-host Kane as tribute.
No, Drake, no!
Let the odds forever be in your favor.
Gotta be fucking kidding.
Here's the first movie.
Did you know I'm utterly insane?
Peel that pig and slice him thick.
The body count is always bigger.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
And the fucking trees walked in those movies. Hi, doggy.
What a story, Mark.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled.
It's just like your opinion, man.
Life moves pretty fast.
If you want your sequel to become a franchise.
37 dicks.
In a row?
I'm your #1 fan.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Marathon Me with your hosts Rhys
And Kane.
And we're starting a new marathon today, a new franchise, new series, not just for the marathon, but also for Kane and I.
Yes, it is.
We are starting the Hunger Games franchise today, everyone. Woo, woo, woo.
My bloody word. Hey, new year, new us, new franchise, new experiences. It's all new in 2024, boys.
Exactly. And we are experts at this franchise, going way back to roughly a week ago, where we both watched the films together for the first time. Kane, you're fresh to this franchise, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yes, I am. And it's funny because I think for a while, Rhys, you were not aware that I had not seen these movies until we started watching them together,
yeah,
right? That's what you told me.
Complete Mandela effect that I, for some reason, thought that you had seen all of these and was quite sort of like knowledgeable about them. So my idea was that this would be a bit of like a Kane guiding the way, and I'm being a Hunger Games virgin, and you sort of taking me through them and giving me a bit of an insight to what it's all about. Like, you know, the insides and outs of each scene and character, blah, 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 blah. But
well, unfortunately, this is not this is not our future Lord of the Rings series.
Yeah, this one is completely fresh for both of us, and we're both virgins to this franchise. The books and the films.
It's as I think we were maybe halfway through or just finished the first movie when Rhys asked me like, so you're gonna kind of take the lead on this series. I'm like, what are you talking about? I haven't seen these movies. Yeah, and then Rhys proceeds to be like, what the hell are you talking about, Kane? And it's funny because I have vivid memories of telling this man so many times that I can't wait to do Hunger Games. This is gonna be our first like series that we've both never seen. I've said it to so many people that have been asking about the podcast. I've said it to you multiple times.
Yeah,
you must have just blanked it out or something. That's so funny.
I think. Do you know how sometimes you will hear what you want to hear instead of what's actually being said? I think that's what happened here. Is that I've totally mistook misunderstood the entire situation just because I was like, yeah, it's time that we get one where Kane takes the leads. So
don't worry, we'll get one soon. Don't worry. Hey, again, we're doing a bit of experimentation this year. We're going to be doing some real weird stuff this year in Marathon Me, and why not start off the year with a series that we're both unfamiliar with, and might piss off a lot of fans of the books. But who knows?
We could do it, take off, live in the woods.
They'd catch us.
Well, maybe not.
We wouldn't make it 5 miles.
Welcome. The time has come to select one courageous young man and woman for the honor of representing District 12 in the 74th Annual Hunger Games.
It's your first year, Prim. Your name's only been in there once. They're not gonna pick you.
Rhys Everdeen.
Prim! I volunteer as tribute.
Our tributes, Peeta and Katniss Everdeen.
They just want a good show. That's all they want.
There's 24 of us, Gail. Only one comes out.
I will say, I quite liked it. I'm not in love with it. I wouldn't start like a religion based off this movie, like a lot of people probably did back in 2012, but I enjoyed it. It is far from perfect. We'll get into some of our critiques very soon, but I had a good time with it, honestly. I think it's a fine little movie, honestly.
Yeah, that's fair. I found it very, very fun, but other than that, this is very messy. This is not like... I could not call this a good film. I would call this a quite poor film. Yeah, but it is.
Do you mainly mean like poor in terms of like, say, like filmmaking and writing and all that?
I think exactly. I don't think that it's put together very well. I think there are certain things that feel a bit unfinished about the movie. To like specifically the sound mixing and like the editing just feels really strange and choppy. So,
oh my word, yeah, dude.
But people fucking love this movie and this franchise and the world that it created. Right? It is like. The cult of the Hunger Games is fucking strong. It is a bit of like a cultural thing for people of our age, like Gen Zers and people around that. Because especially if you grew up as a teenager around the Hunger Games coming out, there was no avoiding this film in popular culture, right?
I mean, you and I did a pretty good job at avoiding it, obviously.
But we didn't avoid it in pop culture. We didn't see it.
Obviously, yeah. You get what I mean, though.
I'm very surprised that we have not seen it at this point. Like, I think that we are definitely outliers by not having seen this. And but. We knew all about it. We know the concept. We knew, like, I don't know about you, but all the, like, sort of societal and political structures of this world, I was, like, across that. I knew all about this before watching any of the movies.
I had some knowledge about, like, that kind of stuff and some plot beats and all that. I had some knowledge of it, like, just out of context shit.
A complete pop culture phenomenon, The Hunger Games. But do you think that it is deserving of that?
I don't know.
That's our clickbait. That's our clickbait thumbnail of like deserving of the hype. Big question mark.
Well, look at it this way. Look at it this way. Because like this was like one of the like part of like kind of like really what started the ocean of these like young adult dystopian fucking sci-fi book to film adaptation series that were coming out during like the mid to late 2010s basically, that like kind of Harry Potter started and all that. Like on one hand, it, you know, Hunger Games was kind of responsible for like this big phenomenon and all that, which like, you know, there was no avoiding, and obviously the story really connected with a lot of people, which like, you know, you got to commend it for. But on the other hand, I hate this series because it then gave us such films like The Giver, Divergent, The Fifth Wave. Does anyone remember The Giver? Starring Saoirse Ronan? No?
I actually have no idea what you're talking about with The Giver.
Sorry. The Giver is a different film. The one with Saoirse Ronan I'm thinking of is The Host. My bad.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was like, what is this? But also the Maze Runner franchise as well.
Oh, yeah, Maze Runner as well. Yes, true.
And they were sort of this, like, cinematic moment that every like, you know, blockbuster season, there would be a new one of those. That would be, like, the tween adventure romance dystopian film that seemed to populate our entire like late primary school and high school existence, right?
Oh, it was inescapable, dude. Absolutely inescapable.
And I remember seeing so many of these and like out of order in like usually going to the cinema with like, you know, a friend at school that, you know, when you go on to the cinema on the weekend, and that's like you pretty much putting in the sand that you were friends if you go to the cinema with them outside of school. Seeing like these films completely out of order and like it going in one ear and completely going out the other, right?
Completely, yeah.
And that feels like a lot of this content, sadly. And The Hunger Games itself, this first film, I feel a bit like that. I don't feel like it really resonated too much emotionally or like spiritually with me, right?
Yeah, no, that's fair. And in a way, I do kind of agree with you that, like, in terms of, like, what the later films would do and try to, like, discuss and really, like, show us, the original kind of feels a bit more bare bones. There's a lot less to chew on especially when it comes to talking about like Catching Fire or the Mockingjay films. There's a lot less to think about with this movie, but on its own, I think that there is stuff that resonates with me, but I completely agree. I completely understand that, like, it would probably, you know, if it went in one ear out the other and all that in your case, you know what I mean?
Are you surprised by how dark these movies are? Or, like, at least this one?
Yeah, no, that's actually something that really did actually catch me off guard, is that, look, it's a movie about kids killing kids and all that, and it's a dystopian, almost like, dystopian, like, Nazi Germany-esque fucking future. So, obviously, I was expecting it to get a bit dark, but I was expecting to get, like, I don't know, Harry Potter dark or something, where it's like, it's dark, but it's not, like, really, like, it's nothing really, like, too, like, oh my god, that's so horrific. But these movies, yeah, especially the first one, pretty fucking brutal, like, pretty damn brutal. Like, my favorite scene in this movie, in the first one, is the actual, like, the beginning of the actual games. Like, when Katniss is, like, primed on the stand, seeing all the other tributes, when that siren goes off, and you just have that montage of the kids murdering each other, with, like, barely any sound, it's horrific. Like, no music, just sound effects. It's genuinely horrific. And the one-time good use of the terrible shaky cam in this movie. I think the shaky cam working in that scene, that fits. It fits in that scene, in the context of that scene, to show how disorientating the violence is, and this situation, and also obviously to cut away from showing actual children get mutilated. It works in that scene.
Not any direct child murder in this, which is nice and refreshing. I'm glad that there's not any close-ups of like a little girl's skull being like kicked in or anything, which is nice.
No,
all happens off screen.
It's heavily implied, though. It sure is heavily implied.
And even without it being shown, though, it also does feel really gross. Like,
dude, yeah.
I feel like potentially, like, kids would not, or like, people that are grown up now that watched this as a kid, that they would almost forget how dark this film was.
Definitely.
The start of the movie, it opens with this, like, grayscale that it almost looks like a World War II film. It, like... It looks like District 12 feels like a concentration camp and has this very because it's extremely authoritative, right? No one really feels like that they have any freedom or like freedom of self-expression. Everyone's wearing the same gray clothes, and the sky is just like, it's all like quite overly lit, and it feels really, really dirty and gross, and you see people on the side of the streets that aren't healthy, and it all, like, I was not picturing this, like, sort of tween phenomenon to begin in a World War II setting, right?
No, it is very interesting. It's very interesting just seeing, like, how, like, kind of, it does not look like the typical, like, tween YA movie adaptation and all that. I guess because, again, like, this was, like, kind of like a precursor to what would come later. This was, like, kind of a trendsetter almost, you know what I mean? I mean, hell, in context towards, like, this series, like, the Hunger Games series and, like, the YA genre as a whole, it almost kind of, like, the first Hunger Games almost kind of feels like a little bit of an indie film, honestly. Like, I kind of got that vibe, the vibe of an indie film and all that. Not in terms of, like, it's a genuine indie film, but, like, it's very, what do you call it? It's, like, it feels very, what do I want to call it?
Like amateur-esque?
Amateur-esque in comparison to what eventually it would become, like what the genre would become known for, I guess, and what would, like, follow the original film.
You are completely right, I think. Like, the production values of this film is on a completely different level to the rest of the franchise, which...
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Which, like, the rest of the franchise does feel very much on the same sort of like, floor, where this one here does feel far more restricted in what it's doing filmmaking-wise, but also, it would feel so different because it's the only Hunger Games movie directed by Gary Ross, where every other one is directed by the same guy. So
Francis Lawrence,
Gary Ross has done such classics as Ocean's 8 This whole film feels very, very distinct from the others because of this, like, different director, as well as having, like, pretty much half the budget of all the rest of the films. I think that this one's around, like, the 60, 70 million mark from what I can remember. Where from this point forward, they're going to well over 100 million per film.
Definitely. Well, yeah, because also this movie kind of like, a lot of people didn't really know that this movie was going to like blow up as much as it did and all that, and then obviously the big fucking audience, reception and all that like basically is the reason why like the other movies are so like highly produced and all that compared to the original, obviously.
Yeah. One thing that I think is very noticeable, especially at the start of the film, of it just being like not as clean as it could be, is that there are these strange editing cuts throughout the film that just like will show Katniss running and then teleporting to another location, and like really weird like sort of jump cuts here and there as well that are just like, come on, you can do better than this, surely. Which does like really, really aid to this like feeling of this low production value.
It really does feel like kind of like almost like an amateur uni student film in terms of some of the editing decisions in this movie.
And you know what I had a lot higher expectations for that actually was nowhere near as weighty as I thought it would be? Yeah. The first big scene, the first I Volunteer as Tribute scene with Katniss.
Oh, yeah!
So like, to give context here, this is the scene where Katniss's little sister is pulled out of the names, and she is made to be like the tribute for the Hunger Games. So
keep in mind, guys, this is like one of the most like iconic scenes of the series.
And I found that so surprising because not only is it an iconic scene in the franchise, it's like an iconic scene of popular culture. Everyone knows that. Like, I Volunteer as Tribute is like a freaking probably top 50 most recognizable film quotes now of all time or something, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have much weight. This scene.
No,
did it feel quick to you? Like it was like very quick.
It felt quick. I think for me, it felt very like just like understated, very much so. Like I was expecting because I was expecting like. I always remembered this scene having like a huge like musical cue or whatever, like a huge like a dramatic like Vine boom, fucking Inception boom or whatever. But like there's no big musical cue or whatever, which leads to the scene kind of like, not having any weight to it. Also, my fucking lord, right before she like volunteers as tribute, we have that really like sloppily edited scene of like her getting like taken away by the guards, and then it's like you see her struggling with the guards, and then there's a cut, but it's the same shot. I think they do that like 2 times before she says I volunteer as tribute. It's so like it's so jarring how like not bad this scene is, but like how bad the editing is, and just how like this just off this scene feels, for such a big moment in like the story, like this whole story, basically like what sets everything in motion has not a lot of weight to it.
This is the sort of like foundational what's the word I'm looking for? This is like the fuse that then begins all the events of the entire franchise to come, right?
Yeah.
And it's poorly executed. I completely agree with you that I thought that there was like some sort of big audio cue as well for this. It is silent. Yeah. There's no non-diegetic audio going on at all, which maybe people could argue if you're writing like a filmic essay on this or something, that it adds to the groundedness of the scene, but it also just takes drama away from the scene. I feel like there's such little drama going on there.
I feel like that that the lack of non-diegetic music could have worked, but the scene itself like, not only is there like a lack of non-diegetic music, there also just feels there's a lack of like the crowd's reaction. Like whenever you hear like a big like someone making a big announcement or whatever in like a movie, the crowd's always like reacting. There's like murmurs and like maybe like someone's like shouting, "No, what are you doing?" kind of meme.
Yeah,
It didn't even feel like there was any like crowd reaction or anything apart from like Effie Trinket bloody being like, "Oh, we have a volunteer. That's epic." Like I don't recall like Katniss's mum having a spurg out and all that about her volunteering. It could, like, the lack of music could have worked, but like even then, like there's a lack of like just like a natural reaction from like the rest of like the crowd and the cast and all that. I feel which is it's just a bizarrely thrown together scene. It's for something so iconic,
Yeah, so monotone and lacking of weight. And then also we get introduced to our boy Peeta as well. Peeta is the male tribute. And then also he's one of the points to the love triangle in this film with because we're also in this sort of first phase of the movie when we're in District 12 introduced to Liam Hemsworth, who is Katniss's
good old Gale.
Yeah, Gale, who is Katniss's other love interest. So this is like all of our main sort of players are already sort of introduced now. They're going to be the people guiding us through the entire rest of the franchise. And we then get brought out of District 12 to another world very, very different to theirs as they enter the capital. Yep. And what I like here, as a little bit of a contrast to the grayscale of District 12, is that pretty much that's when color enters the frame in this movie. That is probably my favorite directing choice of this entire film, is that it's like very distinctly drab District 12 to the rest of the world that it's opened up. So a really, really and as much as it is jarring to the audience, then it is a little bit of a reflection of how jarring it would be to Katniss and Peeta, right? Entering this whole new world.
I completely agree, especially with almost how kind of sickly saturated a lot of the coloration is when they enter the capital. Almost kind of works as in a way to almost overwhelm the audience and thus overwhelm Peeta and Katniss, who have never seen anything like this, never seen people dressed like this, never seen a city like this.
Yeah,
it really works to the film's advantage.
They've obviously never watched Euphoria because they're so surprised by how the people look in this world and in the capital with all the glitter on their faces and over the top makeup.
I was expecting to see Sydney Sweeney at some point in the bloody in the capital, man. But then I remembered, I know this is 2012. Oh, hang on, never mind.
She would have been 13 years old or something. But but we do see some we see Jack Quaid pop up. As a very minor character, but as one of the tributes from another district.
Yeah, bloody Jack Quaid. I forgot to point this out as well. One of the other tributes, one of the girls that tries to murder Katniss during the film. Have you seen the movie Orphan, Rhys?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, the main chick that plays the Esther in Orphan, Isabel Furman, is in the movie. Yeah. She plays one of the tributes.
How did I not notice that? Damn.
See, I picked up on that, but I was kind of unsure. I was kind of unsure of whether or not it was her and all that. I'm like, is that her? I don't know. But then a couple days later, I was doing some research and all that, and I'm like, okay, no, that's definitely her. I'll wait till the podcast to bring it up and all that. Just a little interesting thing. But then I also wasn't sure if you had actually seen Orphan, and then it would have been oh, okay, oh, that's interesting. But I kind of don't care because I haven't seen Orphan.
You haven't seen Orphan?
No, I have. I was worried that you hadn't seen Orphan, though.
Okay. Well, that's very irresponsible of this adult woman to be entering the competition posing as a child. As for fans of The Orphan, you'll get that. Anyway, so there's this in the entire film. There's a very exaggerated. Everything is so exaggerated here in a very teen film type of way, I think, where this was my take on the exaggeration of a lot of the characters in this movie is that there's almost this like loose understanding of the world that you have when you're a teenager, but without actually getting it. And here's an example, is Woody Harrelson's character, right? So he plays, do you know the name of this character?
Yeah, Haymitch.
Haymitch? Is it Hamish or Haymitch?
No, it's Hey Mitch. Like Hey Mitch.
Oh, Hey Mitch. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's weird, fucking weird names.
So Hey Mitch is the mentor of another a District 12 tribute who won one of the Hunger Games many years ago, and and he's like he's a drunk because he's sort of like dealing with the trauma of the Hunger Games, right? That's what I'm getting from it, right?
Yeah, no, it's definitely the case, yeah.
So Haymitch is such a crude idea of what a drunk is, I believe. And that to me reflects this idea that teenagers would have of like, they know what an alcoholic or a drunk is, like the idea of it, and like how maybe it could be caused from trauma or something, but that they don't actually get how a drunk is or operates, and this character doesn't feel like an authentic drunk. Feels very cartoonish.
No, it's very surface level. It almost feels like a kind of like it feels like almost like a live action Barney Gumble levels of drunk and all that.
I was just about to say, is that it's just like a Barney Gumble sort of situation.
Yeah, I'm expecting him to go up to Katniss and be like, hiya, Homer, or hiya, Katniss, or some fucking shit like that. I'm expecting him to do like the Barney Gumble belch at some point.
I don't think there's a single fucking scene for the first like half an hour that Haymitch is in this that he doesn't have like a glass of scotch with him, because he's got to have that, because that's how you communicate that he's a drunk, is that he's always got some scotch on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very, very sort of lazy. The whole film as well, I feel is very sort of visually uninteresting in the way that shots are framed, and the actual composition of how people sit in the frame is very, very uninteresting.
No, I do agree. While I do like this movie, I will agree that like cinematography wise, it's very like there's interesting like choices that are presented, especially with like, you know, the change of coloration from District 12 to the capital, but the film as a whole is kind of a bore to look at, when especially if you take like shots out of context and all that. A lot of it's very like flat, very like not a lot of thought was kind of put into it. It's just very like matter of fact, very like it's just a regular shot type thing, like shot, reverse shot, and characters talking. Not really a lot of dynamic camera movements or whatever, you know what I mean? Not really a lot of like great editing choices either, obviously, that we've already talked about.
Yeah, there's one shot in this movie that I quite liked that I remember.
Is it the one? It's the one where she's like about to like do the salute after Rue's death, right? Is that the shot that you're talking about?
That's exactly it. That is the fucking shot. So you even know this.
Yeah, no, I do, because I remember you pointing it out, and two, right as you're pointing it out, I'm like, wow, that looks really nice. Wow.
The only time in this 2-hour film that I thought that.
I mean, yeah, same here, honestly, same here. I don't know, it's not, especially like later on, in the later movies, I feel really like kind of up the ante in terms of like really making these visually interesting movies, you know what I mean?
Oh, definitely, without a doubt.
Really up the ante.
Do you feel like that the whole build? So this is pretty much a movie of two parts, right? It's like pre-Hunger Games and then Hunger Games when the actual games begin, and feels like I sort of like that structure, that it's almost like cut in half and there's two different phases to the film, which then like is sort of imitated in different ways, like as we go on throughout this franchise. But like this whole sort of fame building pre-Hunger Games section, I felt went on a little bit longer than it maybe should have, and I was starting to get a bit bored around there, just waiting for the Hunger Games to actually occur. Did you feel like that?
Yeah, I do kind of agree. I agree with both points that I do really appreciate that the film takes its time with actually getting to the Hunger Games and really kind of building it up. I think it works really well. However, it does tend to drag a little bit near the end. Right before we get to the Hunger Games, it does tend to drag because a lot of the conversations that they have about the Hunger Games just end up feeling kind of samey almost, where it's you've got to get a following, you've got to get sponsors and all that. I think they say that shit 5-6 times in the movie, and after the fourth time, it's okay, I get it. They need to win over the crowd and all that. You don't have to keep telling us this, guys. And also I think what was also really lacking in the build up to the games was a lot, maybe some scenes of our titular characters Peeta and Katniss really kind of struggling to come to grips with the reality of the reality that they're thrown into. This is they are going to be murdering each other, and we rarely get any kind of scenes of the characters really really kind of coming to grips with it. It's just very it's very exposition heavy. I feel the first half of this movie, and a lot of it works, but after a while it gets really exhausting, honestly. The scene right before the very start of the games, though, when Lenny Kravitz's character is good luck out there, Katniss, have fun, and her kind of freaking out in the tube before getting lifted up to the actual game, that's really effective. That's the one point of that's what I wanted from these characters, was these characters genuinely breaking down, freaking out over this, having panic attacks over the reality that they're in, and we really got it in this movie.
Yeah,
really got
yeah.
it. Which is what I really wanted.
But I have never gone, luckily, most people nowadays, luckily, have not gone through a trauma that would be as bad as being sent to a game where most likely you're going to be killed by it.
Yeah.
So I cannot say for sure how people would sort of process and deal with that trauma happening firsthand, but they seem to take the approach of just being very muted about the whole thing and just indifferent about okay, I guess this is happening now. Instead of you very rarely see them be what the fuck, I am going to either have to kill people, which I don't want to do, or be killed, and there's no if or buts about it. That's what's going to happen now.
Yeah, quite literally.
Yeah, very, very strange.
We don't even get that with the rest of the tributes and all that. We have some of the younger tributes kind of very quiet and understated and all that. But on one hand, it's maybe the film is trying to present these characters as trying to kind of hide their emotions and all that. But if that's what the film's trying to do, is show these characters kind of hiding their fears and insecurities about the games, it's not really doing that good of a job, because I kind of didn't really get that and all that.
Oh well, it's all the young kids that are quite obviously not going to really make it because they're being pit up against fucking
literal
the main
literal psychopaths. That's the other thing as well. It's there's no subtlety when it comes to these other tributes. It's either that they're literal children, or they're genuine psychopaths plus Jack Quaid.
Yeah. Oh no, he's in the psychopath boat where he
No, I know. I just wanted to give him a special shout out.
where they just they seem excited about it. They seem excited.
Yeah.
What I do like is that maybe that is sort of the almost successful fetishism of the games, and it's almost portraying how people are excited to partake and be a part of this process, even though that it is really, really fucked up. But it is a big contrast. And also those kids that are upset because they know they're gonna die, they're just that is exactly how they're presented, just a bit sad. That's all that they're you'll see Rue in the training room just sitting, looking at her feet, being oh, why am I here? This is so terrible. and it's man, you're going to be fucking executed soon.
Yeah, come on, step it up, Rue. Learn some skills. Don't be hiding in the rafters, mate. She probably read the script of the Hunger Games, and she was well, I've got about two more hours of movie time before I'm dead. Oh no! Oh, why bother? Yeah. Why bother?
Why even bother creating a convincing character? It's fine. I'll just be sad.
Yeah, I'm just a child. Well, that's all my character needs. I just need to be a sad child and, become friends with Jennifer Lawrence. That's really it. So that's all I need.
That's what I wish my childhood was.
You go first.
I was going to say that you talking about how you don't get these moments between Katniss and Peeta as well. This film, I think, does a very poor job of creating an actual authentic bond and sense of chemistry between Peeta and Katniss. Here, do not feel it one bit.
No. They're purely here due to convenience. They rely on each other purely from convenience.
And what it's trying to do, right, is because they get advised or come up with this plan that if they pretend that they have a romance going on, then they're going to be more favorably sort of looked at by the public. And so then they're having this fake romance, but then also their relationship is supposed to be developing, right? But you're not quite sure if it's real or if it is for the cameras. You're not sure if it's one-sided, just that Peeta feels something real and Katniss is like sort of the fake, sort of playing into it for her own personal gain. That's sort of the ambiguity of this one, right? But because of that, I don't feel any of the authenticity. But it's because this first one doesn't really feel like Peeta and Katniss's movie just yet for that to happen. But anyway, I wanted to mention that because here, the love, I don't think you feel it yet.
No, not at all. Yeah, not really. Plus, also, they really try to hammer. They try to kind of hammer in home that especially with the you remember the flashback scenes of Katniss in the rain and Peeta throwing the piece of bread They keep trying they keep cutting back to this scene, and I legitimately don't understand what they're trying to do with it. Is it trying to display Peeta was fucked over Katniss? Was he looking at her with longing intent in his eyes? Was he throwing the bread, being like, oh fuck you, I'm throwing the bread in the rain because fuck you or some shit? I genuinely do not understand what they were trying to do with Peeta and Katniss in this movie in general, especially with those flashback scenes. I really don't get it, honestly.
That flashback scene was that probably came up 5 times or something, right?
Yeah.
Hilarious, ridiculous how much they had to repeat this him throwing bread into the rain, because what I think it was, right, it's to establish that they had some sort of prior connection in District 12, right? Like something, and that he is a generous good person for giving providing the bread to her, but also that he could have done better because he threw it into the rain instead of giving it to her. Because this is a moment where he apologizes for it, but then Katniss is no, it's okay, thank you just for giving me the bread in the first place. But you're right, there's too much that it's being so I don't think it knows exactly what it's trying to say or do by this, right?
Yeah, it's so fucking confusing, man.
It's a little bit just well, we'll put this here for maybe them having some sort of maybe the audience can grab something from it. Do you like Peeta, by the way? Because this the last love triangle that we have directly sort of spoken about and focused on quite a bit. There's been a big sort of point of contention has been the kissing booth.
I forgot about that. Yeah. I've repressed that.
With Noah and Nate Jacobs, right? So Noah and Nate being the two love interests, both, and there's a little bit of a mirror here to this love triangle, right? There's one that's a little bit more sort of timid, and then there's the sort of man's man.
The Chad and the manlet, basically.
Yeah, totally. I like Peeta a lot more than I liked Noah.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. I fucking hated Noah. No, Peeta I like a lot more.
Peeta actually
is Peeta just seems like a nice dude in gen. He just seems like a really chill, nice dude.
Yeah. He has a cool arc in this movie. I think that I probably like his. He has more of a solid singular arc for this film, I think, than Katniss does, because he builds this confidence throughout the film slowly and almost this. Because I think that he begins the film as a boy and then ends it as a bit of a man. sort of thing.
Yeah, because also you do get like a nice sense of internal conflict with Peeta, because like, especially like during like the start of the games and all that, he's rolling with the psychopaths and all that. Purely for like convenience, but like, you know, but he doesn't know whether this is the right thing to do. It's like, yeah, I'll survive longer, but is this the right thing to do? And eventually he decides, no, fuck this shit. I'm doing the right thing, taking the chance on helping Katniss and all that, rather than surviving with the psychopaths, which would have, you know, bettered his odds. Instead decides, no, I'm going to screw myself over by betraying them, but I am in the end doing the right thing.
Yeah, and that's very, very important for his arc, right? Because then he's sacrificing, and sort of like he's stepping up to the podium, right? So I found that quite enjoyable about Peeta. Something that I didn't enjoy as much is this cake decorating superpower is fucking ridiculous. This is the most ridiculous thing in the film.
What just an interesting choice to, because I'm sure it's in the book as well. What an interesting thing to just put into a movie, man. Like,
I think it's a concept that makes a lot more sense and is a lot less weird in the book, right? I feel like, imagine reading this on the page, like, you know, plants the seed that he's very, very good at cake decorating, and that he's like painting his arm that it looks like bark in the training sessions, and then later on it's like Katniss is going through the woods, and then she bumps into a branch that she's like, wait a minute, that's not a branch. And then it describes how Peeta has made himself one with the tree and made himself look like bark. The idea of that, much cooler than the execution of him randomly being a fucking tree person.
Yeah, I can imagine in the books it would be definitely less goofy than how it's portrayed in the movie. Like, because the concept is cool, because it basically, you know, shows that he's adept at camouflage in a very practical way because of the skills that he's learned, like, you know, in District 12.
As a baker.
But portrayed in the bloody movie, it's so goofy. Also, it's kind of interesting that it's like, I'm so good at cake decorating that I can literally camouflage into nature with what cake decorating is. Okay, so District 12 is literally like a concentration camp, but they must have like a great selection of cake decorating items. Like, what? Is that their, because like in District 12, their whole resource that they're known for is coal mining. So do they also have cake decorating stuff as well? Is that what they're also known for? They just didn't describe in the movie that well. Like, what is going on here?
So it's supposed to be, right, that in District 12 as well, I am not really picturing that there's sort of even levels in District 12. I'm picturing that they're all in the same economic playing field. It's almost like a sort of like a mini communist, like socialist state almost, where they're all the same level in that one state. And and people are starving and wanting, like bread is, of course, like, bread being thrown in the rain is like a ultimately beneficial thing that you're going to be eating that bread then, right? Who the fuck is getting like expertly decorated cakes? That is, who needs that skill in District 12?
It's so weird, man.
Just cake as a whole, like, he's not going to be doing that on bread, right? Cake as a whole probably wouldn't even be a thing in District 12, let alone designer cakes.
It's so weird, man. I'll tell you what, though, speaking of food and bread, one thing that I really did like at the start of this movie was the movie kind of like portraying the idea of that you guys can, like, the characters getting like extra food, but like the price of getting the extra food is like getting their name thrown in more. Like their odds of getting nominated as a tribute like get higher. Like, I thought that's quite cool. That was a really cool concept, honestly. I did quite enjoy that.
Isn't it strange though that it's like, obviously then it, like, the chances of you being nominated as tribute is a cost, is a price, and it's a bit of a punishment. But they're presenting it like that it's also an honor at the same time if you get chosen.
Yeah.
A bit inconsistent.
Well, yeah, but like that's how the Capitol really portrays. That's like especially how like the Capitol portrays like the Hunger Games and all. It's like, yeah, all you guys are gonna die. All you guys but one are gonna die. But what an honor is it to lay down your life as a martyr and an example to the rest of the world of Panem. You guys should feel bloody proud to be getting shot with arrows or murdered by Jack Quaid. You guys should feel honored.
They get murdered by Jack Quaid on their tombstone. Beautiful.
Honestly, I for one, if I was in the Hunger Games, I would literally just I would just kill myself right on the spot just to bring honor to President Snow. Glory to President Snow.
Oh,
hashtag my president. Also, completely caught me off. Because I was aware of like a lot of the cast in this movie, not Jack Quaid, because obviously I didn't know that, but I was aware of like, you know, some of the like the actors and all that, but actually seeing them on screen kind of completely caught me off guard. Like, obviously I knew Jennifer Lawrence was in it, but like seeing Josh Hutcherson in the movie after having seen him in Five Nights at Freddy's and seeing the Josh Hutcherson like whistle meme kind of caught me off guard, made me laugh. Seeing bloody fucking I completely forgot that Donald Sutherland plays President Snow, and I'm like, oh wow, what the hell? Oh yeah, he's in this movie. That's fucking that's madness. Holy shit.
Well, like, Elizabeth Banks as well. Like,
yeah.
Woody Harrelson. I totally I was not aware of this. It's a pretty like packed cast.
Oh my god, yeah! Especially for like this first movie, this like weird little indie movie. Like it is a stacked cast, I gotta say, and it only gets like bigger later on, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, you've even got a bloody Hemsworth in this movie. It's insane.
Yeah. True.
Unfreaking believable, unbelievable. Rhys, I would like to ask you though.
Yes.
Because you did give your opinions on the the first half of this movie, the actual preparation of the Hunger Games. What are your thoughts on the actual Hunger Games themselves?
I quite like the start of when the Hunger Games is beginning. I thought that it was a really, really great sort of like, I felt in that moment, that's my favorite like part of the entire film is when the Hunger Games are beginning, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like in that moment, it has built up that this would be the most terrifying point of your life. Like, and that's where like silence really, really like plays into it quite well.
Yeah,
and
it's the best directed part of the movie, in my opinion.
Here the silence is utilized a lot better, right, than in like the Volunteers Tribute part.
Completely agree.
I also liked that. Like, I liked this commenting on, like, the commercialization of violence as well that was going on at this point. So, I was, like, it was almost like a second wind of me being like, I'm losing a bit of interest here. Come on. And you know that the Hunger Games are coming. So then, when it actually begins, then I'm in it again. I'm there, I'm paying attention, and probably for the next, like, half an hour or so, I'm invested. I'm there with the kids. But then, as a few of the kids get killed off, and for me, when it starts to just lose me again, is when Peeta and Katniss find the cave. This cave shit, that's my least favorite point, I think, of the entire film.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. I do agree that it does kind of like drag not to a screeching halt, but it does drag the pacing of the movie, especially during like the more exciting portion of this film. It definitely drags.
And especially too that entire section of the film in the cave is now dedicated to Katniss and Peeta get like sort of building on their chemistry, and then you really feeling their connection, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't feel that, which I didn't, then it feels like, come on, get out of the fucking cave. Get out of the cave. I'm seeing too much brown, and I want out of the brown. It's just, it doesn't help that it is very visually just not upsetting, visually boring, visually drab and dry.
Visually unappealing. Yeah, no, I agree.
Completely. And it just like was it was it was homing in more on the whole love triangle element, and it just reminded me that this is a movie made for 11-year-olds. This is a tween film that there's always got to be a love triangle. Why does there always have to be a love triangle?
It is also interesting that like this first movie is like, you know, introducing the love triangle when like we get barely any scenes of Katniss and Gale interacting. We get like a couple scenes during the opening. And that's really it for the first movie. It's really, like, the love triangle, like, it is established, the foundations are established, but it really isn't that properly developed until the later films, really. It's mainly just, like, telling the story of Katniss and Peeta, with Gale being on the sidelines, and I'm just like, I would oftentimes kind of forget Gale was a part of this movie and a part of this love triangle, and then they cut back to him, and I'd be like, I'd cut back to him being like all jealous of Katniss and Peeta getting intimate, and I'm like, oh yeah, he's in this movie, I forgot.
It is. I wonder what it would, like, how satisfying this film would have been when this was the only Hunger Games movie that existed, because it very much is like. I think the most interesting parts of the world and the film in this movie are just act as seeds that are being planted, right? Well, then overall, when the film ends and Katniss and Peeta, they win the Hunger Games together because they decide to falsely do this sort of suicide pact thing with these like poisonous berries, but just before they eat the poisonous berries together, then they call it. Snow calls the game, and it's like no, we're not gonna let this happen. And then they both win, and but then there are so many loose ends to still tie up that aren't, because they have a franchise to do that. That I wonder how the book. How satisfying this film and the book would have been when it was the only thing that existed.
Yeah, I will say this, while watching the movie, like when the movie wrapped up, I will say that I personally felt that, I don't know, like I wouldn't have felt that the film was like just a, setting up for future installments. I would have, like, I felt after finishing the film, I was like, I felt satisfied. They were the questions that they were asking, and a lot of the foundations that they were building up to then carry over into the later films, I didn't feel like was too overbearing where it took away from the central film. But at the same time, I do completely agree that, like, I will say that maybe at the time, a lot of people would have been left maybe wanting more, for a sense. Like the film itself feels kind of, competently finished wrapped up by the end, but some of the lingering questions, depending on your enjoyment and your investment in this movie, this world, this series, it just really comes down to like the viewer's investment of whether or not they feel that this film, the first film, is like feels complete. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well, I think that takes us on to the concept that all these films do derive from a book, from the book series, that, as we said, we are amateurs. Of this series, we've not read any of them, and I feel like that's a point that is quite important to make a comparison. So, we have a special thing that we're going to experiment with for this series, where we are getting an expert on the podcast, our dear friend Hannah, who has read all of these books and has seen all these movies and will call herself a diehard fan of the Hunger Games and the world surrounding it.
She is 100% certified, has a full-on certificate and everything.
Exactly, yeah. She is quite close friends with Katniss and Peeta. And we are having her on the podcast for, we are recording this at a different time. So here is a small conversation with Hannah for us talking about the Hunger Games novel and how it compares to the movie. We have a special guest joining us today, a Hunger Games expert, if you will, and our official first ever book correspondent, Hannah. Hannah, welcome to the podcast.
Hello,
it's
Hannah.
So nice to be here. I've wanted to be here for a while.
We're approaching almost 100 episodes of Hannah asking to be on the podcast, and this is the marathon for her.
This is my time to shine.
I feel like Hannah's been wanting to be on the podcast even before we started recording episodes.
Yeah,
like when we were
literally.
conceiving the idea.
I'm like, get me on the podcast.
Yeah, and I'm like, Hannah, it's not even a thing yet. So
I haven't even watched Scream, but I'll be on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yes.
So why, Hannah, do you think the Hunger Games is the perfect fit for you?
Well, you guys know I'm the perfect fit. Like, this is what I lived and breathed in my childhood. And one thing that I was telling the boys before was I had just a massive, like, crush on Gale. And
Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
Who wouldn't?
He is a Hemsworth, you know, understandable.
And it got to the point where I was like into in year 5, year 6 that my dad had an issue with that. And that didn't work well with
You would consider that a very taboo topic, the Hunger Games in your household.
Yeah, because he thought, why is she into such violent themes? But I feel like for such a young age, I will be showing my kids that because it shows themes of politics, love, violence, and government. And you know what? I think it's going to be in classrooms. And I've read this 13 times. And just to show, tell our viewers the setup here. Kane, what do you see on my window?
I see a massive poster of Hunger Games catching fire. Katniss angrily staring at us right now, watching, overseeing this podcast recording, making sure we do these movies and books justice.
Yep, we've got the books on the bed right now, and that is a massive important part of you being here, is that you have read all the books, unlike the ignorant Kane and I, who are fresh.
To be honest, I'm surprised. I've got it right here in my hand.
That's the sound of a book.
We can't show you guys. We have not yet massive video.
I've got each book in front of me. I have my notes, and I'm going to surprise the boys with the things that are different. Because when I was telling Rhys, I said I can have a segment on this show. There are many things that are different that might shock you guys, but also fits with some issues you guys had that Rhys was telling me before. So, first things first. What did you guys think of the CGI in the first Hunger Games film?
Okay, nowhere near as good as any of the rest, right?
Well, because of that, Peeta's leg was actually amputated in the first book.
Wait, what?
His leg was lost.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Okay.
So...
Did we miss this in the movie?
Yeah, so that's the thing. And that's the thing, when you watch the movies in the book, I actually had to remind myself, oh my gosh, his leg was amputated. So Katniss lost half her hearing.
Oh, wow, okay.
And I remember then she went to a medical centre, whatever it was, and they fixed it, but Peeta had to get a leg,
Ooh.
like an electron, like an...
Did he get a prosthetic?
A prosthetic leg, yes.
Can I ask, when does this happen in the book? Katniss losing...
At the end, so their
fight
scene,
right.
he has these, gauze in his legs, and then basically at the end they had to amputate his leg.
Wow.
But because of the budget of the first film, they were just we can't afford this.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
And they didn't understand their viewership at the time.
Potentially, too, if they're making it for sort of a younger preteen audience, then they wouldn't want to have amputation be a big thing as well, potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, what preteen girl's going to be wanting to fall in love with Josh Hutcherson if he has one leg?
Yeah, exactly.
Who's going to want that?
I only like boys with 2 legs.
Oh my god. And then another one is basically...
Yes, hang on, I gotta read
it. Did they show the people with no tongues, the AVOXers?
No. What are you talking about?
So this is something that I was not sure, because I haven't watched the films in a while, but I remember I was really looking forward to this whole plot on there was this AVOX girl that Katniss would see. Okay. And she would come in and she would come out, and basically the AVOXers are basically the slaves of the capital, and their tongues are cut off.
Oh, wow.
So they can't speak. And they basically serve food and they bins, do all that. And that's even shown in the prequel book as well. So AVOXers have been a massive thing in the capital.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that was missing.
Tongues are missing.
The tongues
in the book.
That is wow, that's insane to think about. Jesus.
Yeah.
I guess that would have been just a bit too pushing it in terms of brutality for the movies and all that. I guess that would have been kind of interesting.
What's the point of them in the capital? What's they're just a weird set dressing thing?
Well, like Hannah said, they're basically the slave, the slave servants and all that.
So Katniss's dialogue, she feels bad. She thinks oh my gosh. I don't know. Don't quote me on this, but I'm not sure if it's because they were bad and then they got sent there to the capital, got their tongues cut off, and that was their punishment. Which sounds pretty much like what it was, but that's what I remember. I was where's the AVOX?
Yeah, how very medieval of them.
Another thing that I remember from either the first or the second, but Hamish's backstory on why he's an alcoholic and why he's a raging alcoholic and why he has this hatred. Did they explore that in the...
I think it's all just mainly implied about the sort of trauma being in the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
But there's specifics. I want to hear more about Hamish.
So basically, he was in the Quarter Quell as well. So that means for their Quarter Quell, there was double the amount of
tributes?
Of tributes.
Oh, wow, okay, interesting.
What ended up happening was he got to the last final like part, and he was on a cliff and he threw a rock, like he was like hiding, and or someone threw a rock and it then launched back up. So he got the idea that that was a flaw in the games, where if he throws a rock off the cliff, it just would spring back up. So when he's in his final fight with this girl throws an axe and it gets him, but then she's standing there about to kill him, but then the axe comes back up and then gets her in the back.
Yeah.
Then Snow didn't like that because it showed that there was a flaw in the arena. So he killed his whole family, apparently. That's what
Hamish's whole family.
Yeah, that's... What? I don't know what was in the books. I'm not sure. I remember that's what I remember it
Jesus.
as.
Oh my God.
And a similar thing happened with Joanna.
Yeah.
Joanna has this hatred and just doesn't care. And Joanna's this character that you kind of in the movies, you're like, why is she like this? But then you realise that, like, Snow, she, her backstory, I don't think it's explained in the books, but I think, like, Susan Collins talked about it, was that her family were killed as well because she pretended that she was really bad at the games until the last minute and then really just killed it. And then Snow was like, that's rebellion. Killed her family. So that's why Joanna keeps on bringing up, I don't have anything to lose for, because her family's gone.
Oh my God! And I thought that Snow was such a nice guy.
Yeah,
until right now.
I was backing him as my president, and now you're telling me this? Oh my God!
There goes my vote.
Yeah, I'm not voting him for another term.
And then that's Hunger Games. I think there's a lot of characters too. I feel like the movie, the one thing that I love about the movie and the books is Rue's death sequence. The movie's got
you like seeing Rue die, do you know?
In the movie, like, I could watch that scene, it just makes me tear up and cry.
Oh, yeah, totally.
The book, I was just sobbing. It's just, like, the best adaptation of that scene. Yeah. I feel like, but in the book, it's a bit more lengthier, and you actually feel Katniss's emotion more, whereas in the movie, it's kind of like, okay, this happens, and then she's surviving.
Yeah, they gotta, move the story forward and all that.
So, yeah, that's the first...
Can I ask this? It's like a minor thing.
Oh God, Suzanne, go on.
It's
guys, because I haven't read these books in a while. Please don't quote me. Like, it's like fact check me.
Well, you're more of a credible source than we are when it comes to the book. So we'll take your word for it.
The author Suzanne Collins, she was busy this weekend.
Yeah, so, we got the next best thing.
Yeah, exactly. We had to get Hannah, so she's getting all of our Suzanne Collins questions.
Can I ask this because I remember actually reading I was watching a YouTube video and I remember them mentioning something about the dogs, like the weird mutant dogs and all that.
God.
Apparently they're completely different in the book.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. These are literally in my notes and I completely forgot to mention
well, thank God. Because that's been burning in my mind. I wanted you to talk about this.
Oh my God, I'm so silly. I don't want me to catch you.
That's all right.
Sorry. No, the dogs. That's the biggest thing. I'm so
sorry. The biggest thing.
The biggest. They are pretty big in the movie.
In the book.
They're all half human, half dogs.
Oh, sorry. I'm shaking the microphone.
No, that was me.
Obviously, with the CGI of, the film being bad, they couldn't do this. But in the book, basically, when Katniss is running, she's noticing that each wolf, which they aren't actually wolves, they're like really like dog like they're creatures.
Yeah, like genetically modified type things, yeah.
And when she looks in the eyes of each one, she sees Rue's eyes, she sees Clove's eyes.
Yes, I remember reading about this.
So it's basically she sees the all the people, like all the tributes that passed away. They basically have the hair like Clove, or like how Rue is, and even like dark eyes. And then there's Rue's counterpart. I forgot his name. Do you know his name?
No, I can't remember
she
the name.
Sees him and she's very terrified because he looks angry. So she's emotionally upset because it's like a reminder, and that's emotionally triggering her.
So is it implying?
Whereas in the movie it's just wolves, so you don't have that same connection where she's noticing their eyes, she's noticing the colorings.
So it's like kind of like they're almost like there's somewhat reanimated versions of the fallen tributes to kind of like fuck with the remaining, with them,
but they're like real dogs. Yeah.
Oh my God!
And also,
Jesus.
Oh no, this is for catching fire. I'll save it.
Okay.
Very good,
well, I reckon that we might tie this little section up, and you'll be hearing from Hannah next week.
Woo!
So there you go. I bet that conversation was extremely insightful and enriching to both of us of our understanding of the film and this universe.
I'm feeling enriched already, and I haven't even had the conversation yet.
Yeah, I know, right? Just the idea of knowledge is exciting, right?
I love it.
Kane, what's your final thoughts on this film?
Yeah, I think that I had a good time with this movie. I quite enjoyed it. I'm not exactly in love with it, but I did have a good time. And I think what this film did really well is that it got me invested into this world, this new world that they were exploring. If a first entry kind of fails to really what do you call it? Like interest you, get you invested, then it fails. And I think Hunger Games successfully got me invested in the world of Panem, and I want to explore more. I want to learn more about this world, and I think that's what this movie did. I think is what this movie did very successfully, honestly.
Okay, that is good to hear. That is really, really good to hear, because I probably sit on the other side of that fence, where I feel that this film did not successfully give me a rich understanding and interest in this world. I feel like that most of the nuance of this world and understanding it that I've enjoyed is from further reading into it and like listening to things they have expanded on upon the like in the books and things like that.
Right.
As well as, like, one thing here is that I feel like I don't completely understand the scope and breadth of this entire world.
Right.
I'm interested to know that all these districts are pretty much just in, like, North America, right?
I'm assuming so, yeah.
Like, the map of the districts looks to me like North America. I'm wondering what else is going on in the world. I don't think that this entire planet is the districts. I feel that there must be other things going on in this world. What are they thinking about it? How much there's also a bit of magic in this world, right? We're introduced to a bit of that with like the fashion that is made for Katniss that like it sets on fire, the wasps that kill several people during the actual Hunger Games themselves.
The stupid fucking what about the stupid the dogs that come in later on during the game?
Yeah. The dogs that are like they could just be dogs, but no, they chose them to be some weird sort of like alien looking dog things.
Yeah.
So there is like these really directly fantasy elements that are not of this world inside this world that do not interact though directly with this sort of narrative, like political narrative though. Like they are completely separate to it, at least at this point, and my understanding of it is completely separate to the story of this like dystopian sort of division of people and districts, right? Like that honestly could exist in our world, right? It's almost like an exaggerated idea of North Korea or something. Like it's
right, yeah.
Where it's like an extremist political organization, right?
Yeah.
But then it's not really giving me this grand sense of the world that I was a little bit curious about, but not because of them successfully developing it, I believe. I think that I was more curious because I was like, I don't think that they explained that properly enough yet. I think that they've got more to say, more to do to really clarify this whole thing. But as a movie itself, enjoying it, I had a good time, but the pacing was a bit weird and there weren't really as many moments of weight that I thought that there would be. And ultimately, I don't think that it's extremely well put together. So overall, it's right in the middle for me. It's a bit of a meh. I think that it is fun, but not very good.
You heard
That's
it here
my
first,
take on the Hunger Games.
You heard it here first, Hunger Games heads. Rhys says it's pretty meh, so get ready to send him some angry emails. Maybe dox his address. Just hopefully he can redeem himself in the later entries. We'll have to. We'll have to find out. Who knows? Maybe catching fire might be what gets you into the series properly.
It could. Well, who knows? Who knows? Because we've still got now 4 more movies from here to go before we've actually gotten a proper cinematic understanding of the Hunger Games.
Well,
so
I guess we'll just have to find out.
And don't forget to check out our Facebook page at MarathonMeOfficial, all one word, and our Instagram, MarathonMe_official, to keep up to date on the podcast. And hey, if you want to get into contact with us, email us at marathonmepodc, yes, the letter C, @gmail.com. Like podcast without the ask.